Did you know that a tiny tax rule at the center of America's shopping habits just became a major legal battleground? For years, the de minimis exemption let low-value imports, usually packages worth under $800, enter the United States with little or no duty. That rule helped power the modern e-commerce boom, making it easier for businesses to ship small packages directly to American consumers. But it also became a symbol of a bigger fight over tariffs, trade authority, and how much power a president has to reshape imports with the stroke of a pen. Now, a U.S. Court of International Trade has backed Trump's power to close that exemption, and the decision has sent shockwaves through companies that built their shipping models around it. Supporters say this is about fairness, border control, and ending a loophole that let foreign sellers move goods into the country at a discount. Critics warn it could raise costs for shoppers, disrupt supply chains, and push small businesses into a maze of paperwork and new duties. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how many packages were moving under the radar. De minimis was designed for convenience, not for a global online marketplace sending millions of parcels across borders every week. Over time, businesses learned to route shipments through low-value channels, splitting orders, reclassifying items, and structuring sales so they could stay below the threshold. That meant faster delivery and lower landed costs. But it also meant tariffs that might have applied to a bulk shipment could disappear when the same products arrived one box at a time. And that is exactly why Trump called it a loophole. In his view, the exemption had become a way to sidestep trade rules, undercut U.S. producers, and flood the market with inexpensive imports. His allies argued that if the goal is to protect domestic industry and enforce trade policy, then a rule built for low-value mail packages should not be a backdoor for massive cross-border commerce. The court's ruling gives that argument real legal weight. It signals that, at least in this dispute, the president's authority under emergency trade powers can be used to shut down the exemption for certain imports. That puts the spotlight on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, the law often invoked when presidents claim broad authority to respond to foreign threats. But IEPA has limits, and those limits are now part of the fight. The big question is not just whether a president can act, but how far that power extends when the policy affects everyday retail purchases and the cost of shipping goods into the country. That is where the reaction gets personal. For retailers, distributors, and logistics firms, this is not an abstract legal doctrine. It is inventory planning, pricing, and customer expectations. A business that once depended on small packages slipping through duty-free may suddenly face higher fees, slower clearance, or the need to restructure how it sells. For some companies, especially those built around direct-to-consumer shipping, the exemption was the backbone of their model. Take that away, and the math changes fast. Consumers could feel it too. If more packages are taxed, inspected, or delayed, some of those costs may show up in checkout prices, shipping fees, or longer delivery times. That is why economists and consumer advocates are watching closely. Even modest tariffs can add up when millions of low-value imports are involved. The concern is not only the tariff itself, but the ripple effect. Businesses pass on costs, sellers adjust margins, and shoppers end up paying more for the same item. At the same time, supporters of the move say the old system was never meant to handle the scale of modern e-commerce. They argue that huge online platforms and overseas sellers were exploiting a rule designed for small, occasional parcels. If goods can enter in wave after wave of under $800 shipments, they say, then the tariff system becomes meaningless. From their perspective, closing the exemption restores balance and forces importers to compete on a more level field. Critics respond that the cure may be worse than the problem. They say the court's backing of this power could encourage future presidents to use emergency authority in ways that bypass Congress, especially on trade policy. If IEPA can be stretched to cover sweeping changes to the de minimis rule, then what else might it reach? That concern goes beyond one president or one tariff. It is about the separation of powers, the role of the courts, and whether emergency tools are being used for ordinary policy fights. Trade law experts are now focused on the tension between executive flexibility and statutory limits. Tariff authority has always been contested territory, with Congress writing the laws and presidents claiming broad discretion to respond to shifting conditions. But de minimis sits at a particularly sensitive intersection: customs law, consumer commerce, and political messaging. It affects not only importers and customs brokers, but also millions of people who order clothes, gadgets, and household goods online without ever thinking about customs classifications. So, what happens next? That depends on appeals, enforcement timelines, and whether companies find new ways to route shipments around the change. Watch for businesses shifting from direct small parcel delivery to larger consolidated shipments, since that could change how duties are assessed. Watch for price increases, especially on low-cost goods where even a small tariff can erase a seller's margin. Watch for more legal challenges too, because the scope of IEEPA and the president's trade powers will not be settled by one ruling alone. The final warning is simple. When a rule built for tiny packages becomes the center of a high-stakes tariff fight, the consequences rarely stay tiny. A court may have backed the power to close the loophole, but the real story is what happens when millions of imports under $800 are suddenly pulled into a new trade reality. For shoppers, businesses, and policymakers alike, this is a reminder that one small exemption can carry a very large price.